Hello, everybody. Settle down. Hello. Hello, everybody. All the way in the back. Thanks for coming. Got to start the festivities. Witching hour at this point. But thanks for coming. Kicking off.
Most stakeholders do not know if their app is actually working or not. In a Google Developer Expert Survey, we found that only 1 in 3 web app developers are using a tool to instrument their applications to monitor reliability in their applications. That means 2 in 3 developers are not using any tool at all, and their stakeholders don't know if things are working for them right now. And poor reliability interrupts building new features, right? Because if your customers are having a severe outage or experiencing a severe outage, that means your developer teams have to stop what they're doing, go fix that outage, and they're no longer shipping new features and new value to your customers. And beyond that, there's just a huge cost to fixing reliability. So through our consultancy, we've helped multiple customers fix reliability issues, and these are expensive problems to solve because they typically represent a problem with the architecture. In one case, an industrial IoT startup spent 8 months in something we call reliability hell, where one entire team of 6 engineers was tasked with fixing reliability incidents. This cost them $450,000 to fix. In another case, one of our customers, a marketing tech company, spent an entire year with 5 engineers and over $1 million fixing architecture problems that were causing reliability issues. So it's expensive to fix. And there's tools that are around to do observability or to do it right, but these tools are really complex, costly, and difficult to set up. We're gonna pick on one of our favorites, our biggest competitor in this space, Datadog. They built an observability platform worth over $1.2 billion. And according to a Gartner Peer Insights study, most software engineers have found that Datadog is either really, really expensive, it's just outrageously high. We've actually found that over 3,000 Datadog customers are paying over $100,000 a year just for their Datadog bill. And if it's not expensive, then it's really hard to get support for it. Datadog has been built through acquisitions, which means that it's this over-featured platform that's really confusing for developers to figure out how to actually use, and customer support's not much better at helping them get through those issues. And because it's over-featured, the whole thing's just confusing. It's hard to actually use Datadog, to get into it and to find the insights that you want to get out of it. So we're Polaris, and we want to change the math around observability for companies. We help companies build apps people trust with straightforward pricing, simple integration, and a killer developer experience. So what is it? Well, it delivers real-time insight into the reliability of apps, so stakeholders know if their apps are actually working correctly or not. It's low cost for developers and stakeholders to integrate. We want to be simple for developers in terms of the amount of code they have to write to use Polaris, and we want to have a cheap bill so stakeholders don't have to balk at a $100,000 annual spend. And unlike our competitors, we're actually AI powered from the start, which is dramatically simplifying our onboarding experience for developers. So the way it works is using Polaris, you start by instrumenting a little bit of application code to monitor key workflows. Then when real users are using your app, we're collecting measurements about those key workflows and transmitting them upwards. From there, you then organize these measurements into indicators of quality and observability, and you apply threshold-based objectives to those. If at any point performance exceeds those thresholds, you get alerted in real time. As I mentioned, we're AI integrated from the start. So as developers push measurements into Polaris, our AI actually begins to recommend indicators and objectives for you. So you don't have to spend a lot of time configuring Polaris compared to our competitors. Additionally, we suggest improvements to establish objectives. So we understand a little bit about your application architecture, and if you have objectives that we know about, we're going to surface recommendations on how to improve the performance around it. And finally, it powers our documentation experience. So it's way easier to get to results and understand how to actually use our SDK to monitor and measure your application. And I think we're the right team to build Polaris. So my name is Mike Ryan. I'm the CTO for Polaris. Previously, I served as the lead architect for a startup, and there I helped that company navigate out of reliability health. I'm a Google developer expert, and I have a few contributions to some big open source projects.
Thanks, Mike. And I'm Brian Love. I'm the CEO for Polaris, and previously I worked as a CTO for several software companies, and I'm also a Google developer expert. So how are we going to make money from Polaris? With 17,000 SaaS companies in the United States generating $232 billion in revenue, our competitors are generating about 80,000 in ARR. So we estimate our total addressable market to be 139 billion. We're extremely early, and we do not have revenue or debt. We plan to generate revenue through by charging our customers a consumption-based pricing model. And we're going to charge them based on tiers, based on the volumes of the amount of measurements they send into the Polaris cloud. We're already starting our sales process. We're in conversations with Love's Travel Truck Stops, as well as with Capital One, and we've got 40 plus sales leads in our funnel. So what do we want to do? We want to start building Polaris full-time. We're currently bootstrapping this through our consultancy, and we want to capture this demand that we believe is out there in the market. To focus on building Polaris, we're asking for $1.5 million to fund the next 12 months of our development process. We anticipate raising a Series A following that. So how are we going to spend that money? Our primary goal is to increase the size of our engineering team, as well as building the groundwork for sales and marketing. And we also believe that we have some patentable technology, and we want to go ahead and protect that. This budget will also help us build out our product roadmap, including making the product self-servicing. We also want to bring the Polaris SDK, not just to web and SaaS products, but also to Android and iOS. And we also want to create an on-premise version of Polaris. So we're talking to a couple of enterprise customers, and they don't want a SaaS product. They need something that runs on-prem. Thank you very much. We're Polaris, and we help you build apps people trust.
Feedback, questions?
Your branding is amazing.
Thank you so much.
Where did that come from? Who did that work?
So we have a top secret designer. She's based out of Toronto. I'd love to give you her information if you want to work with her after this. We worked with her through our consultancy before. She did our consulting branding, and so we had a great time working with her on this.
If you like the brand, we have stickers too.
Sure. And then where are you here in Bend?
Yeah, I'm in Bend, and Mike's in Portland.
Okay. And the company's is virtual distributed.
Yeah, currently our consultancy is just 4 people. So
Yeah, we have a physical office here in Bend.
So you bootstrap through consultancy.
We are.
Good. That's great.
Yep.
Don't you on premise? I've been there.
Okay.
You have a luxury.
The big boys won on premise though.
Yeah.
And that's where the money's at.
That's where the money's at. We've been told. Okay, no, that's fair. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I second that. Yeah, I do.
Don't do on-prem. Just
You
stay
have
SaaS.
so much more control over your own stack. I think the on-prem thing is a really lucrative thing. It shows some flashing some serious dollars in front of people. Like it is it's like the worst girlfriend you've ever had or boyfriend. It's just like a really needy like spouse. Don't do it. Like for now, just find money from somewhere else.
Okay.
Seriously, thank you for that feedback.
we'll
And I
put
think-
that-
We'll
put
do
this
this
straight
later.
through.
I'll tell you more about that. But like, yeah, don't do it.
yeah, really thank
I'd
you
love
for-
to hear more about your guys' experience, honestly, in terms of like what brought you to that decision, and then kind of what was your experience like.
I mean, real quick, I started at a software company in 2001.
Yeah.
All we ever did was on-premise because we made our software and gave it to our customers and they ran it.
Yeah.
No cloud. Eventually, over time, we became cloud. But that, we made a lot of money doing on-premise, but we also realized that customers can take that and rip it apart and integrate it. You have so little visibility into it. So you can control way more as you're building your company. Something I wouldn't move out down the road, but to do it from the very beginning, maybe sure.
Cool, thank you for that feedback. Yeah. Sure, go ahead.
Just quick, so Datadog, so 3,000 people at $100,000 a year, that's 300 million.
Yeah.
That's some serious change. That's like a margin umbrella that you dream about.
Right.
So there's obviously a real opportunity there, but the problem is what stops them from fixing their problems, right? That would be my concern is, so why don't they just fix their, the user interface, the reporting, their interfaces to their customers, solve this problem? Because they already have them.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great question. And we have hypotheses around this. We think that Datadog and tools like it are often prescribed top down from leadership as a result of a severe outage. It's not a tool that developers are actually selecting for them. And these platforms are so over-featured to try and capture a lot of that demand around observability. And if you go look at the pricing page for a Datadog, it's not apparent to you that you're going to spend $1,000 a month right out of the gate. But that's the reality for even really small companies. They're going to spend $1,000 out of the gate on features that they're not actually using. And so we're trying to do something different by advocating directly to developers instead, hoping that they champion our product internally. We want to be that developer-chosen reliability tool, unlike Datadog, where we think it's prescribed top-down from technical leadership.
I think you guys have an opportunity, specifically, developer-centric is really good, but think about talking about them as a user, not just developers, right? Because there's this preconceived notion about developers versus actual end consumer user, and that is your developer, right? But just speak about them as our users are. And also Bank of America, anyone who has ever used Bank of America versus Capital One or Chase, right? Their apps, Capital One, Bank of America, or Chase, fantastic. Bank of America sucks ass, right? Because the key point is that it's patchwork of acquisitions.
Yeah.
You get your strong selling point. The only other feedback I have for you guys, great job, by the way. Love the design. I like your designer. I have some designers that work for me as well, but always can get better. Is marketing spend. I really question how much that is and flip that on its heels and spend all your time on sales and not marketing.
That's a really good point.
260K on marketing, you don't need marketing, who are you marketing to? Really, all your sales, like you get marketing collateral for your sales team to have conversations, to close deals, that's all that matters in year 1, 2.
The budget that the way we came up with that number is I think that's like 4 conference sponsorships a year, as well as travel to like large meetups where the developers are,
Sure.
as well as maybe some sponsorships around like a podcast or some other things like that.
I think
So
you guys
it's
are
mostly going to where developers are.
Sure, I think you guys are gonna experience that some investors are not keen on spending capital on conferences.
Okay.
Maybe that's the right way to reach people, but just
Okay.
think about like other ways to reach developers.
It is
Might
pretty
not be
big for
conference.
developers, I will say.
It could be.
But
Are there other communities where you guys?
There's
can
other
tie
communities
up?
and like online traffic,
That's a
you
good
can
point.
get thousands of people on a live stream.
I would
versus-
question, just going off what he's saying, is you just said that Datadog, your hypothesis is that the majority of that business, especially the large business, comes top down. Even if the developers absolutely love you, how much of that business can actually change from the bottom up? It might be worth it to experiment whether you do need to go top down and really target maybe a high touch sales at a top level for big organizations.
We flopped on this.
Yeah, we're
I don't
talking
know,
on this.
8 times over the last 6
Like,
months. Like
Sure.
top down, bottom up. Like it depends. Like what side of
Small
bed I get
organizations,
up on.
bottom up, it does.
Yeah.
I've always found it really helps. But if
Yeah.
you are going to target those people spending $100,000 with Datadog, you're probably going to have to go top down.
It might be worth talking about a flat organization where development and sales are in sync.
And to your point, like with just a little bit of marketing spend, way less than what's in this budget, we've already generated about 100 leads, but we don't have the sales experience or time to actually track down those leads.
Yeah.
And so we're already starting to find just through evidence that sales spend is going to be worth more of our time than marketing.
So is that sales spend on bodies?
Bodies, sales executives.
Yeah, I mean, you get guys with the right connections in the right industries, and like you don't need any marketing.
Yeah.
They make phone calls for you. That's what you need.
Right.
But then you're not gonna be a low-cost service. The minute you have a giant sales team, you cannot have a
Yep.
low-cost service
So
service
that's
startups
the-
anymore.
That's the thing. I was talking to somebody about this, and they're like, "Okay, what's your ACV?" And we're like, "Well, we're not sure. Let's just say it's like 20,000 or 18,000." Like those might not be big enough numbers for sales to go in and like close and get a commission on those, unless they're racking up tons of those a month.
If you really want to focus on developers and startups and have a lower price point, let's go with the marketing route.
Yeah.
But if you want a high-priced service that's similar to Datadog, I think you lose your competitive advantage of being cheap, low cost.
Yeah.
It
But
just
if you
depends
hire
on what you
sales
want to
people-
target.
Yeah.
I really like that framing of like high tier go for sales,
Yeah.
low tier go for marketing. I think that's a really smart way. to
I mean, a
think
big
about
part of
framing.
that might be in the beginning of the pitch, talking about the difference between like Datadog, you mentioned these big numbers, but like, are you targeting those customers to take them away? Or are you targeting the bottom 50% who are spending 1,000 and we're going to get 50,000 of those customers and bring them over?
That's really good feedback.
That's really good feedback.
Yeah, I like that model on the slide actually. Like our initial go-to-market strategy is to target this batch and acquire this percentage, which represents this much money.
Yeah, that's
Which
really
then gets
smart.
rid of your on-prem problem too.
Yeah.
It does get.
It does get
Because, like marketing is great, but like, man, it can be expensive and leads to nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
What size organization are you targeting? Have you decided to?
Yeah, between
No,
5
no.
to 100 software engineers is a rough size. And if you think that a software company, typically 50% of staff is around engineering, that means that like biggest size customer is 200 employees.
So probably Datadog is targeting higher.
Higher, yeah,
Much higher.
much higher.
Not necessarily. I mean, like we were talking a little bit about that. Not necessarily, but I imagine their revenue comes from 80% of the revenue comes from those huge spenders. They're just spending. I mean, I think Datadog's predicted to be 4.6 billion this year, based on their last like quarterly report.
Maybe that's what you guys can think about presenting that as
I
a
think they're
strategic advantage, right?
1.2 or 1.8
Like
last year.
you're targeting the underserved.
Well, and it's not just unserved because we've talked to one customer, they have less than 100 employees, but have a 6-figure Datadog bill. So there are actually small companies that are incurring these large Datadog costs. So they just think that it's justified.
Those are probably the guys that would data talk about support reputation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those medium-sized companies that don't spend enough on data and get them love, right?
Right.
Like, so maybe that are the easier ones to take away.
Agreed.
Got a question for
You mentioned like feature blow was like a major competitive advantage of yours. What thought have you given about like segmentation to sell to different customers?
That's a great question. So I don't know if we actually have given that a lot of thought. And I think that's probably just an actual blind spot you've identified. I don't think we thought about segmentation for different customers yet.
Can you go back to the slide where you talk about your market? I think there was a couple slides before that.
This one?
Yeah. My advice to you would be to slow way down on this.
Okay.
People are gonna wanna know people investing money are gonna wanna
See the
know,
numbers.
are just gonna wanna understand the market more. You
Okay.
you kind of sped through that one, and I was
I
like,
did.
wait a minute, whoa. So that's the only thing I would say, slow down on that. I would wanna know from a bootstrapping perspective, how much money you've spent on your own.
Yeah, we've been asked that. We don't know.
That's an issue, guys, that's a huge
It's
issue.
basically like billable hours that we've sacrificed, and I mean, I would estimate $250,000 probably.
Yeah, because somebody's gonna wanna know, okay, you spent X amount to get this far, and you're asking for X amount to get to the next, like, someone's gonna know, okay, how far have you gotten on your own? How much have you spent? How much of that versus, the other? That's about the only feedback I give to you.
That's really fantastic feedback.
I give you guys kudos. I'm still not sure I understand your market. That's all.
Can you just, real quick, can you just elaborate, like, what were you missing to get to, like, understanding the market? Would you not explain it well, or are you just not in that field, or?
It could be a little bit of both. Let me think about that.
Okay,
And I'll come back to
maybe
you.
afterwards we can chat, that'd be great, thank you.
I actually have a comment on that, just to dovetail. So as not an IT person
Yeah,
and having pitched a shit ton, I think you give a lot of great facts. It has to be personal to me. What's my problem? So when you're at BVC, and I pitched that in the past, I don't actually have a hardcore problem as a user in the audience.
Right.
That makes it important for me. So there's a story that's
Somebody who's
relatable.
not the actual user.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
the software person looking at reliability,
yeah,
but the person using it, then that's value in the audience. If you're trying to win that competition, most have no idea.
Yeah.
And aren't gonna understand your
Mhm.
market. So make it relatable to them and from a story perspective, and then dive into that market of whatever, to his point.
Yeah.
There's a little bit.
yeah, I think
I love that.
pitch is,
I love that story, just to, give you- like, if you guys started off and real short, don't spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
Think about, like, have you ever experienced this?
you
Yeah.
go to a
Well, behind the
website, you click
scenes,
a
there are
button.
engineers that are tasked with this bigger, massive
You can
scale.
put a face of a user who's like looking at an app, like what's happening, or Bank America app. Like,
Yeah,
this
what do
is
you
shit,
do when
like-
something breaks? You never
Yeah.
come back. I think I've seen that on your guys'
Yeah.
website. Like,
Yeah.
that's a good story. Like, find some micro capsule of that.
Because I think your goal from a storytelling perspective is to connect the people in the audience.
Yeah.
I don't know reliability on the back end. I'm not a software engineer. I have no idea. But I know shit breaks.
Yeah.
You know, so that's important to me.
Yeah, I think this
Alright.
pitch is kind of
One
like.
question.
Guys, we got one more question,
Yeah.
and then follow up with these guys afterwards, and then we'll get on to the next one.
So I am in reliability help. I'm the founder of a B2B marketplaces platform. And I guess my question to both of you is, I'm not on the technology side, but I don't think I told away what is the key difference in value prop of what your software does versus something else. And I've worked with implementations of a variety of tracking services and other technology products, but understand, I guess that key difference in the way that you guys do the magic sauce that you
Yeah.
do, that didn't speak to me as like a business owner
Yeah.
in that kind of way.
Yeah, and I think I'd love to give you like our product pitch, because we have obviously like a sales or product pitch, whereas this one probably more geared for like an investor persona, right? To try and give them the numbers or the math on why we're solving an important
But an
problem.
investor wants to know there's a user who has a problem.
True, fair,
Yeah.
fair.
Like that
Well,
was,
then what's your secret sauce? Like you say you have AI that solves these problems, but like how and what does it actually do?
even
How are you
one
different
slide
from
on
everybody
that
else?
would help me understand how the reliability help that I'm in and trying to solve can be solved by your software.
I think the big takeaway from like this whole half of the room is that there needs to be
You're
something.
ChatGPT, you're summarizing.
I am summarizing.
10 bullet points.
There needs to be something touching on the people who aren't super technical.
They feel the pain. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, I felt that
Where's the
before.
pain for someone who doesn't know?
But
When they looked at that code, they didn't know what was going on.
I think that's your
But
best
I'm not,
initial.
I'm not a Luddite though, and I think that even that, like, there's a sense of, I know that Datadog has bloat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what is the feature that you've built out within that bloated set of like everything that is the thing that I should be like, oh, that's the secret sauce right there.
Mhm. Yeah.
That
That's
would
really
be
good.
would be helpful.
I think if you hit that super early, then that will be your hook to get everyone's attention.
Okay.
Good
Cool.
job, guys.
Well, thank you all for the feedback, everyone.
Yeah.
Good job.
We do have stickers, lots of them. Take them. Respond to the tech conference.
passionate feedback on this. This is my co-founder, Spencer. Our company is called WiseOx, and we're in the AI space, first of all. So WiseOx provides a system for training an AI on company-specific content. We call them mascots. The companies use training content like documents, PowerPoints, Excel files, video, audio files, and interaction from your team. And then we take that and put that into a customized database for that client. We also add personality, tone of voice, and any brand attributes that you want to add to your AI mascot. And then our AI mascots are shareable. They're also embeddable into websites and other apps, and they can integrate with other platforms for users to interact with. We're kind of in stealth mode. As you can see, our design is
not quite as polished as the
Yes.
previous one.
I
think we're going to need to hire a designer.
Yes, but we do actually have a working product, and we have paying customers. So we're really only in stealth mode because we're working very intimately with our customers and have not launched to the public. So the challenge that our customers have communicated to us and we're really passionate about, as an example, I'm sure everybody in here hopefully has used ChatGPT or something like it. The issue for companies is that ChatGPT obviously doesn't know anything about your product, especially your product content that's not public. It doesn't know anything about your brand and your service unless you train and educate it. But the problem is the way that you do that today, especially in a public tool like ChatGPT, is pretty limited. You have to input the data, you have to use prompts, it poses a lot of security risks. And so a lot of companies just have not even gone down that path. So our first use cases are building these AI mascots for things like sales companions. They're kind of product experts and trained and educated on a large product database. And we've also explored some HR and onboarding use cases where the AI mascot can be kind of an assistant to help a new employee get onboarded with the company. We are really streamlining this process for our customers to make AI much more actionable, right? Every brand and customer wants to get into the AI game, but they don't really know exactly where to start. Our team has worked with a lot of these customers in the past, and we are successful founders. All three co-founders have successful exits under our belt. I was co-founder and CEO of a company called Brand Live in Portland. I led the company from 0 to 5 million in ARR and 50 employees. And then I sold in 2019, right before COVID. The company's doing phenomenally well, and the acquirer has done really well after that. Spencer and I started a company here in Bend called Zipcan. Embeddable video chat was the product that did, and that was like perfectly timed for COVID. So we actually launched it, built it, and sold it all during COVID, which was a great experience. And then Andy, who is our other co-founder and runs sales, was hired by an investment team to run a company called Penblade. And he turned that company around and sold it and made money for investors. So we have a proven track record, and we've built products and we started in video in like the 2010 to 2013 timeframe. So that was when everybody was saying like video is eating the internet, and people are saying a lot similar things about AI today. So we've been in a space where it's super competitive, fast moving, and we really like that. That's why we jumped into AI. We have, as I mentioned, kind of an actionable Rolodex of customers. We've worked with a lot of these customers in the past, and we know that they're eager for a solution to get started, especially from a trusted partner that knows their needs and has a tailored solution for them. That's really the beachhead market. That's why we have fast and early revenue, and we think that'll take us to 15 to 25K in MRR. But long-term, the AI for enterprise market is growing at over 40% per year. I don't need to explain that too much. It's big and getting bigger. Our experience has really helped us build and manage the momentum of an early stage company. So we've taken some of our successes and are putting them into WiseOx. So we founder funded to this point, both our time and, to answer your question, 25K in capital. And then we just closed our first outside funding. So we closed 250K. That's on a safe. We're going to raise another 250K. So $500,000 will get us to successful customers that are seeing the value and past the 6-month mark, which is our first renewal timeframe. The customers, we eventually are going to sell to bigger customers, but we have $10 to $50 million in revenue customers right now. But we've had meetings with companies like Levi's, Ace Hardware, Nike, and GoPro, and they've all kind of verbally given us a commitment that, hey, if you guys can build this product and make it successful, that we're willing to take that journey with you as well. So we're building pipeline for kind of Q1, Q2 of next year. So the feedback that I'm hoping to get today is, one, do you understand the product? Do you understand a little story about us and have some trust around that? Or what intrigued you? What confused you? The competitive landscape obviously is very fast moving. We have a long list of potential competitors, but maybe you know some tools that you're like, oh, I think this is kind of in and around that space. If you know those names, that would be helpful. And then if anybody is more technical on AI and ML engineering, we're building the kind of core of what we're building today is the mechanism for training an AI mascot on your specific content. And there's lots of nuance to that. I'm using pretty general terms right now, but that's really where we're focusing our engineering time and our differentiation. So if you know any tools or any other engineers in that space, Jeff, thank you. And the last thing is talent. We're looking for, obviously, talent as we grow. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my concern with, yes, sorry. My concern with any AI company, and what I hear that investors are interested in, is that there's a very low moat around the AI startup. People have access to the same engines, and it's hard for an AI startup to really get a head start unless they're working with foundational models. So I guess my first question is what is the moat? And the second one is I've heard a lot of investors in the AI space is that they are interested in the network. Who do you know that can build this quickly and get there first?
Yeah. So the first one for us in the beginning is landing customers and proving use cases that then you can deploy a sales team to expand it. So it's a little bit go-to-market mode as opposed to right now anyways, a pure technology mode. Because like you said, everybody has access to the same tools. But we do feel that, like I said, there's differentiation in the effectiveness of teaching an AI model about content that is specific to you. And if we can get that to be really accurate, so some of the use cases, for example, are teaching the AI or giving the AI company-specific content, giving the large language model company-specific content, and having the user be able to query via the large language model, query that database and be able to get actionable responses. And if those are really accurate, like meeting the bar of an expert at one of our customers saying yeah, if somebody asked me that question, I would probably give that answer, or maybe not even that good. Then we can take that AI mascot that we call it and use it to do a lot of different things.
How are you currently working with companies to get their data and structured in a way that you can feed these models?
It is pretty manual right now. We're essentially hand building the first couple of them. I mean, we actually have a SaaS platform they can go and upload it and stuff, but
It's all DIY.
Yeah, it's all DIY, but and we have a web app that they can go to manage their content and interact with their content, but it's we don't have a lot of integrations yet. But ultimately, the first integrations are going to come from Dropbox, Drive, and Microsoft. And then later it'll be more real-time data streams of things like inventory or product updates and stuff.
I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, I love your slide deck so much.
Less is more.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Are you guys, to what extent, so first of all, did you say you were ingesting audio data and video data too?
Yes.
Are you transcribing that first?
Yes.
Okay.
We
So you're
turn it in-
transcribing it to text and then.
Plain
Yeah,
text.
we turn it into plain text, yeah.
And then are you are you uploading that to, I'm imagining you're like, can interrupt with like different models like Llama or OpenAI or whatever. What are you using now for those?
Well, for the parsing, we use a variety of frameworks. Our main LLM is OpenAI. Yeah.
So then to what extent are you using vector databases for lookup versus fine tuning models?
Full extent.
Vector databases?
Yes, yeah, it's all like.
Yeah, we're not fine tuning yet. That is obviously on the roadmap because that's going to play a role in reinforcement learning and understanding the overall interactions between the user and the LLM.
And do you have people on staff that know how to do reinforcement learning? And like, do you have the feedback from humans or are you going to do that manually?
Yes and no. We want to hire more in that, but we do have engineers that are versed in machine learning, and obviously large language models are relatively new to a lot of people. So yeah, we're looking to staff up in that area.
It's a small team, but we have enough engineering to get us.
Yeah.
Sort
And I
of
do
through
have a
those
small
things.
question. So when you guys are talking about raising capital, you all are successful founders, and obviously you're seeking outside capital. Is that primarily when you talk about your overhead, is it like primarily salary, or are you looking to like invest more in the tech side of things? Like actually hiring GPUs and training models and things like that?
A little bit of both. I mean, human cost is the higher part of that cost, but we will have access to both. But the majority of our funds right now are being used for product and engineering, but eventually sales and go-to-market will get some of it.
Who are you competing against?
A lot of people. I mean, there's sort of multiple layers. There's obviously, the foundational layer of large language models and AI, which would be OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, et cetera. And they obviously want their platforms to be used by companies like us to make end solutions. So our value is more in like the UX layer. In that layer, there are, every day there's companies popping up that have something kind of similar to us. So it's a pretty dynamic landscape in terms of startups. And then there's definitely existing software companies that are already in, a training space or sales ops and go-to-market software, and they are also adding AI functionality to their tools, which makes them a little bit of competitors. So
How much is the competition within the companies you talk about like the big companies like Nike?
Mhm.
How much are they talking about doing this internally versus using an outside service?
yeah, we have found, so previous companies were video based, which is a little bit of like internal companies get scared off by video because they think, oh wow, it requires so much data and processing, which it does. So we had that question, but never really that problem in the past. So we were able to develop some relationships and work with IT enough that they felt like we were enough of a vertical subject matter expert. I actually think AI is going to be kind of similar, right? A lot of companies are going to want to build solutions in AI, but the world is really your oyster, at least right now. And so there's going to be needs all over the place, and an internal company like Nike wouldn't have the development and IT resources to service all the groups that need access to that added functionality.
So it seems like two things. One is the clarity of the problem you solve. So, it's like a lot of these tools, the application matters. So what you're saying is we can dramatically lower your cost of sales, because we can let the customer guide themselves through part of the sales process until, they're ready to talk to an actual human being, if that was for it, or, whatever that piece is. I'm kind of implying that, but, and the other is, maybe a map of, this is kind of AI space right now as we see it, and this is why we're not competing with all these other people that are in it. We're over here solving this problem that other people are ignoring. Like,
Yes.
Investors see that.
Yeah, thank you. That's good feedback. Do you want some examples on those or no?
But sure, but
Okay. Well, sales has been a great place to sell into, obviously, because if you can show uplift, then you have higher renewal rates and you have higher MRR from that. So that's obviously one of the use cases that we're exploring. So for example, there's a company that manages thousands of retirement or assisted living and memory care facilities, and they have a huge inbound of families that are looking to ask questions and normal things that you would either traditionally get a chatbot for, but that doesn't work all that well in that industry, or a sales rep, and the sales reps aren't that well trained. So we're starting as like a companion to the sales rep to know things like what square footage availability is in this type of unit, what are the terms if I move from assisted living to memory care, et cetera, et cetera. Our AI will know that level of information for this specific company. We'll start as a sales companion to the sales reps, but eventually it will get integrated into the end consumer that's asking questions.
Yeah, that's clear, that's great.
Do you have a way of ensuring accuracy in those cases?
That's the special sauce that we're working on.
Can you say more about
that? Well, I mean, it actually has to do with a lot of stuff you were asking, right? How are we creating the vector database? We're doing things like, as we are creating and indexing content, we're creating metadata on top of that. Can that metadata be editable and viewable? How fast is that for a customer? So,
but you're not like reloading the vector databases. So that's like, you have like GPT functions hooked up to these sorts of things that do data lookups in real time? Or are you relying on the different vector databases?
No, we have GPT 3.5, right?
Yeah,
mostly what we're
that's
using for the queries. So GPT 3.5 is basically responsible for figuring out what is this query asking for, what is this prompt asking for, looking into the vector database, and we need to be able to tell GPT 3.5 exactly what it should be looking for, which is kind of, that's the part on our end to make that as accurate and effective as possible.
So if I'm a user, I have to like hook it up so that I make sure that my data is loading into your vector database in real time so that you have the latest information. Is that correct?
Well, right now it's manual, so like we are actually taking,
So you can't really do inventory at the moment with that.
not real-time inventory, but we are doing that with, like, we also have a brewery customer that every month they produce 30 different beers with different recipes and ABV and pour size, et cetera.
Yeah.
They do that in Google Sheets, basically.
Yeah.
So they just, every month, they load it into the AI, and now the AI knows what did we do in September versus in August.
I would actually suggest to you and to the gentleman before, I think what would be great is for someone, because you're gonna be pitching to people who don't understand all this conversation that you've been having, people who are gonna bring money to the table are not only not gonna get it, they're not gonna wanna hear it. And that is really brutally honest with that, is exactly what happens. I would say to you, and I would say to the others, can you come up with like a 90-second demo or a 2-minute demo to explain like the top 1 or 2 use cases, right? And it has to be okay. It has to be, here's how I'm gonna save money, right?
Yeah.
Here's how I'm gonna improve efficiency. Generally, that's what it is.
Right,
But I would suggest that, because I gotta be honest with you, I don't get what you guys do.
I mean,
I've heard onboarding and AI and.
I mean, you get a real use case of the sales
Yes.
with those retirement communities. Like, here's a salesperson asking you, like, hearing the conversation, and then the AI spitting out information to them that they can just relay to the customer. Like, that flow would click pretty quick.
So it sounds to me like you have 2 different customers, which you probably want different approaches for. So like one is your sales customer, which is, so as like a SaaS or PaaS platform, product, you are like, you're an operational cost. And so sales is already kind of oriented towards that. It's like this, it costs this much per lead.
Yeah.
Like that's what we spend. But if you're looking at another customer who's like used to a CapEx kind of mindset, they need to think about it differently. You need to like approach them differently, come around to it.
Yeah, that's great feedback, and we know that there's so much benefit in focusing on one ideal customer profile, right? Because you can build examples and use cases and sales content that helps each one of those different situations get through the buying process.
You it's not like you can't go for both. I'm hearing 2 different mindsets you're targeting.
Yeah.
I get it. I really don't want this to be insulting. I really apologize.
Yeah.
You've run businesses in the past with successful exits. I'm sure there were investors involved with that. Why do you even need to pitch when it just go to them directly?
Well, actually, we're pitching here because of exactly this kind of feedback, because eventually the dollar amounts get bigger.
Sure.
And guarantees that we've made money for somebody in the past doesn't get us to 15 million in funding if we eventually need that. So.
Oh, I would include that.
Yeah.
Oh, say that right there.
Yeah.
That is beautiful, man.
Thank
That was very, because
See,
that's
you did
what,
ask.
that's the reality.
Like you've run businesses in the past, like why are you?
Yeah.
So tying into, something we went deep on the last pitch, but curious about like with the team and your funding and everything. It sounds like you two are doing a lot of prospecting and sales. What is your sales pipeline build out look like with funding?
Yeah.
Because if you told me earlier you're running most of the top level product marketing and you're running most of the product development and managing the engineering team, I can't imagine when you grow a team you're going to have much time to go out and pitch Nike and all these other places. Like, how much spend are you looking at for the sales process? What's your sales pipeline actually look like on a quarter scale?
Yes. Spencer doesn't need to sell. It's on him to build the awesome product that's working. And Andy, who's the other co-founder, he's actually the VP of sales. So he runs the sales team. But as early stage company, we have to close the first, 5 customers. So our first batch of customers is $6K in MRR, 5 customers. One of those will be free, or like somebody that we really want to work with. We get those customers to kind of validation through our own efforts before we ask somebody else to go do it for us. And then the second tier, we want to like warm up the pipeline, right? Because you can't just hire somebody and expect them to go sell.
But again, like you guys have, if you are targeting bigger companies eventually, it's not a SaaS model. You're not just like throwing some ads up and some blog posts and people just come and sign up for your service. Maybe that is for some lower level, but if you are targeting bigger companies, it has to be high touch point.
Yeah, we are making the software simple enough and a use case that will be simple enough. You can go to the website, sign up for it, and try it. But that's mostly for like individuals within departments within our sales pipeline to be able to get in quickly and try the product, see some value fast. If that does, the space is super dynamic, right? And there's a lot of people that are actually building tools like that. So depending on how that changes, we could have more of a bottoms up marketing approach to drive self-service usage.
So if you have one person at Nike who's a salesperson or whatever that could have a use case, they find it, they sign up for free, they start uploading data.
Yeah.
Within their what they're
hopefully they get their hands signed for it. They're like, what are you doing? Where'd you put that?
Yeah. We're probably upload all the next generation of shoes.
Yes, exactly.
So are you guys thinking about a path where that could naturally, without being high touch point, actually slowly build up in an organization where more and more data comes in at different levels with very low touch point, and then all of a sudden you have the entire organization?
Hopefully, that's kind of the way Dropbox grew, right? And we haven't landed on exactly what kind of content they would upload, right? What is a use case that wouldn't get them in trouble, that is useful to them, where they would see value in the product, even with like a 2 to 3 person team. If we could find stuff like that, which we haven't identified yet, but if we can, that would be a great product-led growth strategy to get people in and using the product, and we can watch, who's signing up and what their use cases are, and then grow from there.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I really love the unit economics that you touched on a little bit. Like our first 5 customers are going to represent this much ARR, right, or MRR, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, like, if you even weave that in, even if you're having an intimate across the table or coffee shop conversation with some investors that you guys already know, like, just like this is our first target niche, right? This is what that looks like for our first 5 and our first 50 and our first 500, and that's just that alone, and then we can grow horizontally super easy, right?
Yeah.
Because there's all these use cases. So, like, earlier simple use case scenario, this is what you typically get when you ask ChatGPT if you're a sales guy and you're trying to solve this problem. This is the answer you get. super not relevant, super not helpful, I'm done, right?
Yeah.
This is the answer that we will serve for you instead, which is like, aha, I got them. And then we're gonna charge this much, our first 5 customers represent this much, and this is how we grow that in multiples. And like, that's a great
Yeah.
story.
I like the simplicity of that.
Yeah, right. It distills it
Tied
down
to use
very well.
case.
That, I'd 100% agree with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's, yep.
Yeah, it's not easy to do, but
Yeah.
the more you practice that,
Sure,
you
yeah.
have the answer on the fly. So like when you're at Starbucks with an investor and they're just starting to warm up the idea.
Yeah, your elevator pitch, man, 90 seconds. Boom, here it is.
Definitely not easy though, practicing.
Yes.
Prince loves elevator pitches.
Yes.
Love that.
I know.
Yeah, that's a
Exactly.
great story.
They're good, man, but you have to go through 45 editions before you get to the good one, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, the quick story is that the last company or 2 companies ago, Brand Live, everybody in the company, that's a huge issue, right? Does everybody know the elevator pitch? And so we used to say if you would wake somebody up in the middle of the night, they had to be able to repeat the elevator pitch. And so we were at a offsite, and they did it to me. I was asleep, and they had a video camera and everything, woke me up, and I had to do it. I did it.
I'm pretty sure he was right above me too. I was partially on camera. I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, good for
Okay,
you.
thank
but-
you for-
Good for you, but rude.
All right, well, thanks, everybody.
Yeah.